Oh shit!
That's a big fish.
No, dude!
Asox, Asox!
Oh, what?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Oh!
17 and a half.
17 and a half, dude.
The big one, man.
No way. The legend is gone.
The new boat has been in use for February? I think it was February. So we're in the beginning of December now, so let's say it's been put to use for like 9 to 10 months. And I thought it would be a good idea to give you my insights about the good, but also the bad, or the stuff that I'm less happy with. Small details, minor inconveniences, and the overall experience with the boat. Quick note before we continue, I will try to address most of the questions I got regarding the build of this boat and the first video that we did on this new setup in March earlier this year. And after all these months I can say Eliteboats did a fantastic job building this boat. But there are some things that I'd like to change and I'm gonna address this in this video. This boat has been put to the test extensively in both the Netherlands and Sweden during the spring fishing that we did there, and also our longer expeditions which you might have seen on the channel. In this video I will address several questions, for example if MarineMat is as durable as they say it is, and if it is a replacement for carpet, and how the pelagic fishing is compared to using a tiller. I hope this video helps out other anglers with their future purchases when it comes to what type of boat matches their desired style of fishing. If you enjoy these videos, hit the like button if you can and subscribe to the channel, that will be highly appreciated. Thank you guys, enjoy. First and foremost, it is a heavy fucker, and you can definitely tell with the stability of the boat that it's a lot of weight that gets pushed through the water. I got 140 horsepower with the engine, which is absolutely needed with a boat like this. Top speed is like 68, something like that. It's not super fast in the modern era, because there's a lot of boats out there that boast about how they get 40, 45 knots, you know, blazing over the water with 100 kilometers an hour. That's definitely not the case with this boat. But it runs really nice and it runs really smooth. I must say, in high wind conditions with a lot of big waves, this one holds up really well. But if I would change one thing, it would probably be that the windows would go all the way to the side over here. Now I need to have these windows that you can lower and raise, because in my garage I'm gonna get stuck with the amount of elevation I have over here. So I would prefer to have them a little bit more towards the side, maybe modify this specific model and get some protection from this side as well. Another thing that I would change with this boat is the console, so it gets 10 centimeters more towards me and I can still move around my chair or my seat, so I have that flexibility. With that extra space I can put the screens in here. Now I have this one, this is from Balzout, which is fine, it is strong, it is durable, and it doesn't have much flexibility, but this one moves around a lot, and especially when I'm driving really fast, even though it's rugged as hell. I mean, it looks like you can dislodge a semi-truck with it, but it is strong, it is heavy, it is durable, but it still has a little bit of flexibility, and that flexibility creates vibration. And when I'm driving fast, and especially with waves bouncing around, you feel the screen vibrating, and if you need to navigate and check your map, but the map is vibrating all over the place, it gets kind of annoying. And I could lock it and fixate it against the console over here. But in all fairness, like if I'm gonna redesign the console at some point, I might as well just make sure that these two screens sit behind the steering wheel. We designed two specific holes in the side of the console, intended for rods, so you could put them on the side. For the left side of the boat that works really well, but for this side I'm never using it. And this is a side where water does get through if you are facing heavy wind and rain conditions. So probably would create the new console in such a way that this one is completely closed, the screens are behind the steering wheel, that the whole thing gets pushed like 10 centimeter more towards me, so I get more space in width, so to speak. Depth, I think it is. Width or depth? Depth, yeah. Another thing that I think I would change is this little step we have over here. Absolutely love it. It's a necessity with this high raised deck. But the sides, the powder coat on the edges, it's an area of the boat that gets beaten up all the time. So feet are landing on it, lures are landing on it, and especially you have something like gravel or something in your shoes. Yeah, it gets beaten up. And these are the ones that are like from stepping on it and stuff. Maybe like a rubber strip on this side would help. And these are, especially when you're like vertical fishing, pelagic fishing, and you use a 100-gram jig head and someone drops it down, yeah, it's a lot of force, and then you get chips like this, which, you know, all fairness, the boat has been used heavily, but it is annoying. The benefit of having this black matte finish, the powder coat, is the fact that it's easily fixed. I think one of the things that Frans and I absolutely love about these rod holders, beside the fact that they're so convenient and that you can place your rods in such a way that they're pointed outwards, so for trolling is really nice, it's spacious, and you have a lot of oversight as well. But they also make a lot of noise when you get a strike, and especially when trolling in Sweden with the big side planer system, the tension builds up, the line gets released from the clip, and then your rod starts bouncing in the aluminum pipe that's inside there, and it makes a ton of noise. The bad part is that the powder coat on the inside gets a beating too, and after a certain time you see that the little edges of the powder coat get damaged and chipped away. Again, something you can fix, but maybe we need to put some rubber cap or something inside, but then we would kill the audio. So I'm not really sure what I want to do with that. The same with the little step. In practical terms it works great, but yeah, it's just minor details that gets annoying. You have a nice black and gray finish, and then you have these white dots everywhere popping up, which is yeah, a nuisance, so to speak. And the entire boat is decked out with marine deck or MarineMat. My biggest fear was that it wasn't hook proof, but it turned out it's actually quite well resistant against hooks. It doesn't get stuck in it. Like I said, 9-10 months intensive use with this boat, and I had maybe 2 hooks stuck in it, and you really need to jam it in. It's also really easy to clean. This deck has been covered in pike slime, blood, and tons of shit as well, and it's super easy to clean. You just put a high pressured hose on it, it's gone, and it flushes away with the drainage system attached to the hatches, and it dries really fast as well. Frans and I have been sitting in the rain in Sweden with our expedition. The rain was pouring down on us, and 15 minutes later you have a dry deck, and that is super convenient compared to regular carpets or other materials out in the market. It is a bit fragile in certain areas, as you can see over here. This was a BKK logo. This is an area where you're casting and you're moving around a lot, and then you have fragile areas like this, so we need to find a solution for this one. Other than that, it's holding up really nicely. One area that is quite sensitive for wear and intensive use is this little edge over here. You're stepping on it, you're rubbing on it. You can see that it's a little worn, but still holding really well, and the material really sticks nicely. I had one specific spot from a hatch that I wanted to replace the logo because it wasn't super aligned with the fiber in the 3M sticky layer. You don't have any residue that's left, so you just pull it out and you replace it with a new piece. Super easy to do, and most of the cost of this MarineMat is in the design process and actually measuring it to fit your boat in a custom way. And if I wanted to replace, for instance, the seat over here, it's really easy. You just rip it out and put a new patch in, so I could put a logo in here. Or if I decide to change up the color completely and want to have a pink mobile, you could do that as well. They have the measurements, rip it off and reapply it. There's a bunch of stuff that I'm really happy with. One is the new Minkota Ultrex Quest. The new drift mode is a blessing for casting, but also for trolling, especially with guiding. If I'm out guiding and I need to manage all the rods that are out, it's really easy for me to plot out the course, set the desired speed, and the machine just does everything for me, and I can focus on putting the rods out. I can focus on, you know, landing the fish, or when we're fishing with me and Frans, I can just focus on fighting the fish when I hook a fish, and I don't need to worry about the wind pushing me away, or, you know, letting go of the stick when you're trolling with a tiller like we used to. The Suzuki I got, let me check. No, I need to start it first. I have keyless entry, no issues so far, and I got 444 hours on it. I do need to service it sometime around this, but I haven't serviced it yet, I think. Nice. It is drive-by-wire, and you do need to get used to it, because at the boat ramp, if you touch the throttle for just a little bit, it's super sensitive, and that's something you need to get used to. One thing I like a lot with the pelagic fishing that we are doing, you don't get that, you know, that lock-up phase when you're like shifting gear and it's just in between, so or it makes a lot of noise when you shift from, you know, forward to neutral and from neutral to reverse, or the opposite way. It makes a lot of noise with conventional engines, but with drive-by-wire it goes super smooth and it makes a lot less sound. And we all know that sometimes you shifting gear above a fish, and then the shifting of the gear noise spooks the fish away. And I haven't had that with this system, so happy with that. A couple other things that I'm really happy with, well, the integrated fuel gauge, so I can see how much fuel I have inside, and also the enemy 2000, so my engine communicates my fuel consumption. And especially in these times when you almost pay like €2 a liter, it's really nice to see how much fuel you're burning at what kind of trim level and throttle level. And talking about trimming, one thing I was skeptical about, but in the end super happy with, is the jack plate in the back. This is a C-Star jack plate, and I must say during these expeditions it has been a blessing to have this thing, because now those bays, which are super shallow, are now finally accessible to build up our campsite and easily maneuver from and to. Previously we were bumping and humping rocks and stuff. With this one I haven't hit a single thing yet. Fingers crossed. But it's also really nice to drive around when you have this thing completely lifted up and you don't have to worry about speed bumps when you have the boat on the trailer. One of the more sketchy boat ramps we had in years. Some people online are saying that you should put Euro 98 in it, which has E5, I think. I'm looking at France.
Yeah.
And Euro 95 has E10. And the rumor online has it that E10 is bad for your engine, it eats away your fuel lines and all kinds of other issues that pop up. To be honest, I've been driving around my boat intensively, the previous one and the one before that, and this one as well, with the 444 hours with Euro 95, and I never had any issues at all. So in my opinion, there's no need to waste all that extra money on already expensive gas out there. Just put Euro 95 in it. And I've asked Suzuki about it as well, and they state to me too that Euro 95 E10 is perfectly fine. When you talk about power consumption, the new Ultrex Quest is brushless, and I control for more than 8 hours at 3 kilometers an hour with my Rebelcell 100 amp 24 volt battery. The brushless engine is quiet, but it's power efficient, and that is a blessing. And you know, in terms of fuel consumption, I don't need to run the petrol engine all the time. I do, however, run the petrol engine sometimes because the battery isn't enough. Like if I have really strong wind conditions and I'm trolling against the wind, that 8 hours might get reduced to 6, and then for those final 2 hours I do need some extra energy. And then I can reroute the power from the alternator from my outboard through the starter battery towards my 24 volt battery with the Rebelcell range extender, and that way I can extend the range of my battery setup in that case, and then I can extend it for, well, really long actually, because Frans and I went to Sweden, we do these expeditions and we troll for 9 days without, you know, charging solution. And the only reason we can do that is because of the range extender that we have inside. We have the petrol engine running in the back and it's recharging all our batteries on the go. So when we troll, we often troll on the trolling engine, but we do that with the petrol engine in the back, and it's just a big generator, so to speak. It just generates power to charge all the utilities on board. And in terms of batteries, I got the 120 Pro from Rebelcell, and it is enough to power these 4 screens and all the live transducer 360s and charge our phones with these wireless chargers, which are amazing, by the way. The 120 is a blessing for me, especially as a guide. A couple of weeks ago I had a guy over from Germany We came over, launched the boat, drove out, came to the first spot, and I noticed that the voltage on my screens, it was pretty low, like 10.9 volts. I'm like, hey, what the hell is going on? It turned out that I forgot to put the plug in, and I forgot to charge my battery, and I also left the main switch on, so it was draining power till 5%. I could still start my petrol engine, that was no issue at all, but with only 5% left and a full day out of guiding, that was going to be an issue. But because it is a starter and service battery, I could just fire up the outboard, and the outboard was recharging with 4 screens running and all the sonars running, my 120 Pro, just by having my petrol engine running stationary in the back. So having the flexibility for me as a guide and as a professional angler is key to have, and that's why I'm running the Rebelcell 120 Pro as a starter and service battery. These are too large, or there should be, I don't know, some roster or filter in front of it. They're too large in the sense that if you have a soft bait with a small jig head, it can easily disappear in the hole of death, and then you're not gonna find it anymore. During a YPC boat, we were catching on a specific prototype soft bait. I can't tell you too much about it because YPC boat still needs to be aired. But that soft bait was doing really well. And for the next fishing day, we needed that soft bait, but we only had 2 prototypes. So we were super gluing and soldering whatever was left of the little soft bait. I had these soft baits hanging to dry on the little rod, the cup holder over here. Oh. On the little cup holder over here, and then I bumped into it and it just dropped down and dropped into the hole of death over here. Yeah, how are you gonna get that back? And in the end, Sven helped us, and he put one of those measuring tapes out. It was a little soft bait with a tungsten head, and those measuring tapes, some are magnetized at the end, you know, the little L-shaped strip at the end. So he put the magnetized measuring tape inside the hole and was able to pull the soft bait out, but we were poking around with pliers and everything, trying to get the soft bait out. If you drop something else in there, once I thought I dropped my microphone in there as well. We were looking around and it turned out that it fell into, I think the cooler or something. I was convinced that it was inside one of these holes. So yeah, if I would redesign this boat, I would probably make those little holes smaller, because after 10 years of use, there's probably a good amount of gear that is on the bottom of my boat. And that's gonna be microphones, knowing my track record with electronics. So, yeah. Whoops. I think we're all right. And finally, I am just super happy with the overall dimensions of the boat. Casting deck in the back is really nice. I could lie there and sleep as well during our trolling trips when we don't get any takes. But also for me in Sweden, when my girlfriend Iris comes along, she's just sunbathing in the back, reading a book, whatever, and I'm standing in the tip casting over there, and I can have 2 extra people in the front casting there too. It is super stable. Sven and I, for instance, were fishing in the shittiest weather out there, but also I've been fishing with Hugo and Sven, and we were standing with 3 people in the tip of the boat and still have enough room to comfortably cast. So yeah, you could fish with 4 or 5 people in this boat. Depends on the casting skill of people, I must admit. The boat is 2 meters and 38 centimeters wide, super comfortable and stable fishing machine. Probably gonna do some small minor modifications over time, like this little handlebar on the console on the left was definitely needed, because riding high waves, I'm just sitting here and just holding on the steering wheel and nothing, you know, you're bouncing around, but these suspended seats, we have nothing to hold on to. It gets kind of uncomfortable, so we put a handlebar over there and might do another handlebar for the passengers in the back when I have multiple people on board. Yeah, overall I'm super happy with how this boat turned out, and see what the slow trolling game will bring the coming months. I talked about it before, the downside of using a console is the vertical game, the pelagic fishing. Finding fish for other people is fine, it works out great, especially with the second Mega Live in the front. So I have one running here on down mode, I have the other one here on forward mode, and then I can make that cross-reference that we talked about. It's less fun to do it myself, because I need to steer. I have 2 hands to operate the boat. I need to throttle up and shift gear, and I need to steer, but I also need a third hand to actually drop. I have a little trucker's knob on the steering wheel.
What did I pay?
That makes your life a lot easier with turning around finding fish. I don't know, I like the vertical game a lot, like I did back in the day with my tiller. And I can do it for other people, I can maneuver the boat on top of the fish. but it's less fun than using a tiller and driving around and having that flexibility with one arm operating the boat and the other one operating the rods. It feels a bit handicapped, and I'm getting better at it. But yeah, I think handicapped is the correct word for it. It feels a bit, it's a lot more difficult, and that kind of takes the fun out of it a little bit. But maybe I just need to get a second boat, like a small, tiny, maneuverable thing. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.